this is getting so frustrating. How much more can we take? We're erupting like volcanoes, blowing ashes in our face. We need change. Like a baby, you hear the crying. We need change. Like a flat that's on your tire. Baby, we just need some air, a little bit of space, some time to think it over. Maybe that can help erase all the pain we've made. Let us change this hate, oh. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. No. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Don't even know.
It's time to mend this gap and get our love lives back. Most of us have come from a place of hurt and pain, but that's not the only way. There's still a chance to regain the trust we once had, a must. Let's pick up our hearts and grow onto a happily ever after we go.
Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Take a moment, think about it. Why we always fighting? Man, we be so violent. Man and woman riot. How did we get started? Most of us don't even know. Don't even know.
Welcome everyone. We are back. Love and Balance Talk Sessions, Bed Banzai Network. I am Nasik Harashi Shema, or Chief Prince Shema, and I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. And my co-star, my co-founder, my wife, my Isha Nasika Amuna. And then we have More Dawood Akeem of Remnant of Hope Ministries. And we got Mora Khayilia. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, shalom. How's everybody feeling?
Feeling great to be back. Ready to get started again. This is going to be an interesting topic. I'm can't wait to see what you all are going to be speaking on or your comments towards it. But before we get started, we're bringing up the topic. I want to share a video, 2-minute video we're going to watch, and it's going to kind of segue us into the title and also the topic of this evening. For those that's new, make sure if you haven't, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are watching from Facebook right now, take a little pause, go to Bed Mazan Network and make sure that you subscribe, all right? Let's go. Let me go ahead and share it. Get it started for you all.
Many children experience the hurt from broken families at such a young age. In 1960, just 33% of Black American children didn't live with two parents, but by 1988, that rate went up to 61%. In that time, the proportion of Black children born to single mothers rose from 23% to more than 60%. This is exactly why we can't judge government policies based on their ideals, but based on their results. And these results, well, left a ton of households fatherless. I mean, think about it. What would the result have been if this welfare policy had required the opposite of that both parents live in the same home and care for their children to receive government assistance? The welfare state did what slavery couldn't do. It broke families apart, and broken families fuel poverty. The structure of the family can influence the choices children make. For example, boys raised without their fathers are more likely to drop out of school, get violence, use drugs, or go to jail. Girls are more likely to have a child out of wedlock or engage in sexual activities at a very early age. These children are also more prone to mental health problems, which can affect them as adults. A psychology test detailed in Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's book Willpower showed that children from fatherless households were more likely to settle for a small prize straight away. In contrast, children with fathers present were more willing to wait for a bigger prize. Experts from the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research challenged that these effects are primarily due to dangerous neighborhoods or poor schools. They found that the direct effect of family structure itself played a more significant role. As marriage rates declined among the poor and working class in the US, the institution of marriage has remained strong among the wealthier population, with similar rates to those from 50 years ago. At the same time, the decrease in marriage among the working class has led to a significant rise in out of wedlock births, often to couples who are living together without being married. This happens because people view marriage as an ideal situation, but feel it is unachievable, yet they still want to have children. In the mid 1980s, the rates of fatherless households dramatically increased. Today, just 44% of Black children live with their fathers. Also, a lot more Black children are born outside of marriage. The rates of such cases went up from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994, which remains at a similar level today. Many people.
All right. I just wanted to kick it off with that to get us started with the topic. But before we do so, I'm going to open us up real quick in prayer. When we have conversations like this, we want to make sure we invoke the presence of the Most High to give us wisdom in our speech when we're speaking of and things of that nature. So if you all just pause for a minute that's listening, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick prayer, right? Borenu abinu malkinu, animebekesha na bola kase shelka. So like I knew I'd call it to my shehi pezit bukanit wanafshit. Our Father, our King, our Creator, I ask that we approach your throne. Please forgive us for anything that we have done that's unclean, whether it be spiritual, physical, mental. Torah for another day of life. Torah for the panel. We ask that you allow your spirit to be amongst us as we speak on these matters concerning our people in hopes that we can provoke thought and change. We give you all the honor and all the glory forever and forevermore. Praise the eternal power, praise the eternal source, and praise the supreme King. All right, you all. Let's go ahead and get started. So the topic of the day, or the title of the day, is No Fathers, No Future, the Impact of Fatherlessness on Society. When you all heard this topic, what was your thoughts? No fathers, no future, the impact of fatherlessness on society. What's your thoughts?
Um, it's I felt that it was a truth. I think that this is a great topic to speak about within our nation, um, because that's the facts of it is without fathers, it's going to be I wouldn't say no future, but the future doesn't look too bright. It's kind of a warped future. So um, yeah, I was very excited for this. I'm telling Maisha for a minute that I do want to write something in regards to the fatherless generation. So this was right up my alley. So I was excited.
Torah. Ladies, what are your thoughts? No fathers, no future, the impact of fatherlessness on society.
I think it's a great topic because it definitely speaks to our identity, um, our young men's identities, especially the daughters' identities. So definitely am excited to talk about this topic.
And for those that's tuning in right now, please let us know your thoughts on the topic. On the topic as well. We want to hear your thoughts, want to hear what you got to say about it. Ishti, did you have anything?
What I think about when I see this topic is kind of see what can we do or what can be imparted into the young men, the young women, the older men, the older
She's
women.
very low. Oh,
Can, can I be heard now?
okay.
So that I just think about what can be done to reverse this, and I think about the impact that I've seen on other families whose fathers were not present. Um, that's it.
All right, you all. So I know that there are people that have fathers that's present. Again, when we speak on these matters, we're speaking on the collective as a whole when it comes to so-called black men. And also, too, one of the things I didn't speak on, but hopefully we'll address it, even the effect of our families when the fathers are present, right? But we'll get on that later. All right. Let's get with the first topic, the first subtopic. How does the absence of fathers shape sons versus daughters emotionally, mentally, and socially? How does the absence of fathers shape sons versus daughters emotionally, mentally, and socially?
Hmm. I want to say it's different. Can I say that first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to. That was it. It's just different. I'm just playing. How does it shape them emotionally, mentally, and socially? Emotionally, um, I guess I'll just do one, and then the sisters can do another one. Emotionally, they are. It affects them both heavily. Emotionally, when a young man doesn't have a father in the house, typically he's around his mother and other siblings, other women, typically most of the time. So he doesn't understand the ability or the necessity for the ability to control his emotions. He doesn't know how to deal with them. He doesn't understand that, get up and brush yourself off mentality that men have, as well as the balance of that as the balance to that being able to express your emotions without being irate. So being able to communicate effectively. Um, for a daughter, not being able to uh, have a man to um, communicate and talk her through her emotions. So, and being able to calm her emotions. Like the father is really, the first superhero that most children have. So without that, your emotions are definitely unbalanced and can cause a lot of trouble as you get older. Which I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll speak about the effects on the adult side, but as far as children emotionally, it is very, very unbalanced and uncontrolled for the young man. So I'll yield there, and I won't deal with mentally and socially.
Oh man, you got time? If you wanted to deal with
I,
socially and mentally.
um, mentally, okay. Well, I'll just go from sons, and then y'all tackle the daughters, right? Cool. We
Mhm.
agreement pound on that. Akio. Okay. Mentally, sons, there is a huge lack of identity there.
Mm.
Most young men, when they do have a father in the house, I had my father in the house, so I was able to see him and kind of mold myself after him in certain ways. So mentally, my mentality or the young man's mentality is going to be molded and shaped by what they see their father do. Because from youth, when you're able to start walking, you are following after your father. So mentally, without that, you really don't have a way to go. And so you're kind of searching for that constantly. You're searching for what is my mentality supposed to be? Am I thinking right? Should I be thinking this, so on and so forth? And when you don't have anyone to bounce that off of, it's uh, detrimental to your growth and development. And socially, Um, mm, it's kind of the same thing. Like when you don't have a when you are in the house and you don't have an identity, then you're going to take that lack of identity outside the house. So you don't know how to really deal with females because you didn't see the example of your father and your mother, or you didn't get to have those conversations with your dad about, okay, so well, what do I do in this situation, or when it comes to young men, you're gonna be fighting. Well, you don't got no father. So am I running from every fight? Or am I standing my ground? Did my dad tell me, get back out? I don't care win, lose, or draw. You go back out there. You try to handle your business. Like so, there are many things that a young man doesn't receive from having an absentee father that is vital to his growth and development. And I'll yield there on the young man.
Toda, toda. Good points. Excellent points. I love the identity part that you brought out. And that's something that's heavy. We was watching the video, and the videos showed a shift from, I think, the 40s, and then once it got to the 60s or 70s, or was it the 60s and then the 80s? It was one of them, and it was a massive shift. And I think that shift had to do with identity as well, because in that point, the fathers were removing themselves, whether they was getting removed from who they were with, or whether they felt they should remove themselves due to their family will be better off, like the welfare was trying to talk on. You only could get the welfare if the father wasn't there. So they might have still had a dynamic of being around each other, but still wasn't around each other for the sake of um, those social workers that will come in and check on them. So I think the identity is huge that you brought in. I actually wrote that in one of the next topics. But go ahead, ladies. Did you have anything? Want me to pull it back up? Pull it back up. How does the absence of fathers shape sons versus daughters emotionally, mentally, and socially? You going?
Hmm. So, like one that Ruth said, of course, I grew up with my father in the household, so I want to speak on socially. Um, I could speak on some emotionally and mentally, but socially, how does the absence of a father shape sons versus? Am I low? Okay. So how does the absence of father shape sons versus daughters emotionally, mentally, and socially? Socially, when a young woman does not have a father in her life, I feel like all guard is down, and this is no um, shade to mothers that are rearing their daughters and sons without a father in the home. But to just be quite honest, other men and young men feel intimidation when there is a father around. They see that that's that girl's first line of defense. And the second line is usually the brothers. But just growing up, I remember there were different times, especially even if it was times where I was nervous to tell my father something that had happened. I just knew that he was there. And I knew that at the drop of a hat, if he knew something went down, that he would have done everything in his power to be that protection. And he was even that protection there when nothing did happen. Like when me and my sister would go to the bathroom, he'd be like, "Y'all not going by yourselves. You're gonna have somebody watch you." And then even when we left the house, there was a certain way that we had to dress. There is a part in Sirach that speaks of the liberty of a daughter having much liberty over her body. And this is not all, but I feel like if when fathers are not involved, there are tendencies to where young ladies, once definitely they start developing into their bodies, they feel that need to now to start to wear appealing things. And I always see fathers more than mothers stick up and say, "You're not going outside like that. You're not." You can see it on TV shows, you see it in real life where the mother's a little more lenient. Well, let him do this, let him do that. They see it as innocence. But the father is a man, so he has the mind of a man and he knows both sides of the coin. He knows that if a righteous man sees it, he can be like, "I can't look because she's too revealing." And then he knows if a man that is trying to look, what he's going to be looking for And like I said, just the first guard socially. A father is the first line of defense. And usually, when there is no father, that line of defense is down. And that's why men are able to come in and woo young girls so easily. And they're able to get into their life, even if their motive isn't bad. Eventually, if there is no man there to meet that man head on and get his approval from the father, then a lot of times things are, usually go south. And then for our sons, they don't have that example there. They don't know how to conflict resolution as a man. Conflict resolution as a man and a woman is always going to be completely different. We're supposed to take the more subtle role, and especially if there's a threat, we are supposed to, in my opinion, and from what I've seen and experienced, we are supposed to take the humble grounds when it comes to defending ourselves. We're supposed to try to find a way out as soon as possible. Versus men, they're supposed to be able to solve that because eventually they'll have a family and they're going to have to be able to solve that problem and defend their family. And if a man does not have that, again, like Mordad Wood and even Maish said, emotionally and mentally, they're going to be trying to solve it how they might have seen their mother or other women solve it. And that usually does not end well. I definitely pray that um, my presentation was understood. That's it.
Okay.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I love how you brought out the part with the socially part, as far as the father typically being, and that goes with husbands sometimes too, But the father typically say, "Hey, you might want to cover yourself a little bit more," and not even just for the sake of a man that's no good that's trying to get you, but for the sake of a man, a righteous person that you're looking. You look for a righteous man. You're looking for a good man. So a good man may avoid you. A good man, especially a righteous man. Righteous man gonna see that a righteous. I'm talking about righteous. Gonna see that and be like, that can be a headache, or that may be a problem. You know, um, you know, and that's not all. A righteous one also can look be balanced and kind of depend on how often they see that person to look and see the context of the matter. But for the most part, if they don't know that person and they see him, that's going to be a turnoff. So that father figure that knows that he wants to bring a righteous man in his daughter's home, life, is going to be there to kind of be that voice of reasoning when it comes to addressing. So I appreciate that portion that you brought out. Mora, you got anything for us?
Kane, I got a couple bullets. um, so for the emotional impact, I would say that a son without the father, that speaks to his validation, and Moya Daoud brought out his identity, because most of the times sons, they seek that from their father. So without that, they struggle to understand what it means to be a man, and they kind of lead with a lot of self-doubt and insecurity. So that's kind of where that comes from. Also anger and resentment, because the absence of the father usually breeds anger, um, that feeling of rebelling and unprocessed grief, because it is a trauma also, that we don't really talk about. And usually that anger is usually directed towards like authority figures, society. So it takes away from that part of them. And then there's that emotional numbness too, because then they don't know how to express their anger, express their feelings. And a lot of times they would suppress it instead of being vulnerable. So that understanding of how to be vulnerable is not there also, because it didn't have a male figure to show them what it looks like to be vulnerable as a man. So it actually becomes their weakness. For daughters, of course, that's our self-worth, how we're accepted. It's like a male's affirmation is just literally that daughter's confidence. I know with me and my father, that's where my confidence come from. That's where my boundaries come from. That's where all of my roles as a woman comes from, because I'm affirmed in those roles, and I'm affirmed in who I am. So I don't take anything from anybody. And then you don't crave that male attention, because you had it. You know what a father love looks like. You know what it is to be loved in that male sense, either as a father or a brother. For me, it was my father and my brother. So I had that role, that validation, that if I needed anything, I knew who I can come to or who I can talk to. Also, that fear of abandonment is also there too for daughters who don't have fathers. So that attachment becomes an issue. Learning how to feel secure or to trust in relationships is very hard. Um, the mental impact I had, let's see, for the sons, mentally, kind of like the authority that I was talking about. So that lack of discipline and structure, um, just that you get like two things. You kind of get that hyper masculinity where they're like narcissistic and things like that, or you'll get, those toxic behaviors, or you'll get the emotional side where you're getting all of um, what the mother has put into them or what they've seen with having mothers and aunts and grandparents around them. None of them has showed been able to show them things. They're good things, but you're learning how to do things from a woman's point of view. So they're more emotional and things like that mentally. And looking at the statistics, a lot of men go through depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts because of that lack of that male figure in their lives, or that guidance or that emotional support from a male. Um, for the women, of course, that's like unclear boundaries. And I think Maura Nasika talked about that emotional dependency. And the biggest one is low confidence. Without that male, that confidence is very low, and it's hard for them to be in that, leadership role also. Socially, I think Maura Nasika said some good things. I did want to add for like the women, it would be like that hyper independence. I don't need a man for anything. So you get a lot of that mindset that you can do it better. And you can take care of yourself. You don't need a man to take care of yourself. So which also really bothers, well, doesn't help us because submission now becomes the worst thing ever because you've never seen it. Also, that romanticizing toxic relationships because you don't really understand or know what a good male figure looks like or good male love looks like. So you want this toxic and you think it's good. Um, I think for sons, it'll just be without that, fatherhood or that male figure socially, there's a lot of rejection to other men and authority figures and things like that. I did want to add on though, growing up with having a father and also having a brother who took care of me. I'm talking like gifts. If I needed my hair done, my nails done, anything, I got it. I didn't have to ask anybody else. That when I got to college, it was almost like I was so affirmed in who I was. I didn't have to do what everybody else did. I had what I needed. I knew who I can call. I knew what I can do. It wasn't like this idea of, oh, I'm independent now and I'm free from my family. I still wanted that validation. I still needed to know, is this safe? Am I safe doing this? You know what I mean? And when I didn't like certain things in college, my father made sure that, okay, well, then we're going to get you an apartment. We're going to make sure you're safe. We're going to make sure you have this, what you need, so you can continue doing what you need to do. So for me, it was just like everything that I needed, but also I was able to understand how to treat my husband because of how my father loved me and how I was able to have that interaction with him. And he would talk to me about, what a man likes in a marriage or relationships and how I should act and things like that. And we would be able to really discuss what was needed, what wasn't needed. So now that I'm married, it's like I'm doing all these things for my husband. He's like, how do you know all this stuff? And it's like, it's not my mother who taught me. It was actually my father. So it's weird, but in the same sense, it was definitely needed. And I saw the difference on those who had a father who they can talk to and go to, even when it came to like the girl parts, like getting your nada and stuff. He still was a part of that. And that affirmed me also. So all of that really built my confidence, built who I am, and built what I was looking for in a husband, so that when it was time for me to get a husband, I didn't tolerate anything. I just waited until that time and got everything that I needed. So I do believe that not having that father really does affect women on how they choose, what they tolerate, and what they don't tolerate. And I'll leave it there.
Amen.
And I want to say something. This goes back to something that was said a few shows ago, and it goes along the lines of my belief. It also goes along with statistics, but I'm not going to speak on the statistics since I don't have it. But what I do know about the statistic is they say that and this is no shot like Maisha said earlier on single mothers, but it is a statistics out there that says if children are raised by the father versus the mother, there is a significant difference. And I'm bringing that point out because you said, I know it's weird, which I know you don't really think is weird what you said, but it's weird that, he was able to tackle so many of those different areas where normally people will say only the mother can do this. I stand on it's something about what we are supposed to be on both sides of the fence. We're supposed to be able to, as men, supposed to be able to teach both our daughters and our sons, because the statistics shows it's something about the father that's present that helps to keep the children balanced. The mother does her portion of keeping the children balanced as well, not taking that away. But it's something about the father when it comes to the development of the children. So I didn't think that was weird at all when you brought that out, because it just confirms the things that I know about a good father, what a good father is capable of doing, especially a well-balanced father when it comes to many subjects pertaining or dealing with spirituality, a mental, right, and physicality.
Emotional. Okay. Oh no, no, no. I was. I thought
Buddy,
that was
well, I'm
a.
trying to be serious,
Nah, go
man.
ahead. Go
But anywho, well, I appreciate that, you all. I had another subject that I was going to bring out, but y'all tackled it already.
No, go ahead.
More Daoud and more Akhilia, y'all married. Y'all tackle this right here. This was going to be one of the topics. Is there an emotional gap when fathers are not present? Does it affect self-esteem and identity? We already touched it. We don't even got to talk about it because
No,
y'all
it's
brought.
okay. We can still talk about it because I wanted to. I got some stats. I
Well,
watch.
I'll take this down there and let you bring your stats out. And then my Ishai, you wanted to say something, Ishti? Hold on, she interrupted you more though. I'm sorry.
Oh
But
no, no, no.
I
She can go
speak.
first. I'm gonna yield to a coat anyway.
Here we go. Hold on. Go ahead.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna.
coat.
Morikayoya said that with her father, there were things that he knew even concerning her, Nita with, her cycle. That's one of the things that surprisingly growing up with seven brothers in a household with only two girls, not to be too explicit, but when we came on our cycle, our parents made sure that it was not foreign to our brothers because, well, eventually they're going to be husbands. They're going to have a wife and daughters who experience this. So it was the most, I would say, comfortable thing because I heard horror stories with young girls having their cycles and they get treated very insensitive around that time. And that's depending on where your hormones are, you can be super emotional. And I just know my brothers and my father covered that very well growing up. And there were even times my father, he knew exactly what to go get from the store. When my mother would be home, my aunt would be home, he'd go to the store. All right, he'll say, Ma, Muna, what do you need? I'm bringing it back. And that helps your self esteem because there are some women who are literally traumatized from relationships who did not grow up with a father that affirmed them in that area with men who treated their cycles like it was this taboo or was weird or they themselves did not know. And that right there is enough to put some trauma in you with different individuals. So that's it.
All right, more.
Nah, hallelujah. The daddy is important. I thank you. talking about, a comment I made a while back, but it's okay. I still stand on that. Anyway,
It's okay to be wrong sometimes, man. It's okay to be
I'm
wrong
not
sometimes.
wrong at all. But anyway, that's not the point.
Bring out your stat, because we can have another conversation. We can have this conversation with just me and you, and I can show you my bullet points. You can show me yours, and we'll see who comes on top. Go ahead.
It's pause. Anyway, all right. So, can you bring back up the subtopic, please? All right. Is there an emotional gap when fathers are not present? Um, Absolutely, and this is in sons and daughters. It said 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. So when you're talking about the aspect of self-esteem and identity, suicide usually comes from depression, uh, having a very low self-esteem, not thinking that your life is worth anything, so on and so forth. So for almost 3 out of 5, well, over 3 out of 5 of these suicides from our youth happening from fatherless homes, that automatically lets you know, at least as far as depression, it's affected. 80% of rapists motivated with displaced anger comes from fatherless homes. And 60% of repeat rapists grew up without fathers. So 80% do it once, and then 3 out of 5 who don't get caught, they come right back and do it again because they have displaced anger. So when you're talking about self-esteem and identity, you're angry because you don't know who you are. You're angry because you haven't had a model of what a man is supposed to be and how you can get a woman without forcing yourself upon her. So you don't really know what to do in these situations. Emotionally, just having somebody who and there's no support like a mother's, but a father's support as well is just as important. To have somebody who's going to push you, especially as a young man, having somebody who's going to in a sense encourage and almost force you to stand up and be a man, stand on your own too. And you see the difference between a man who has grown up with the father and a man who hasn't, or even as you said, which we'll probably touch on later. I think you said the aspect of having a father in the house who really isn't there, but they're there. So it's like you see the difference between these different type of men who are growing up, and it's just the dad is a superhero. So without that, it's a big part of you that's kind of taken away if you don't have that, and it's sad to see so many of our youth. Like we have a school, of course, so you get to see the uh, difference within children from the ages of 2, 3, all the way up, of the ones who just come in with the mother, and then the ones who come in with a mother and father, and it's just like it's a huge difference in the way they act and the way they carry themselves, in their confidence, all of that. So it's definitely impacted in a huge gap in between the two.
Yeah, and I wanna say something too. Let me bring that subtopic back up. See, I wasn't gonna touch on it, but you brought it out. It's man, it's not black and white. And what I'm saying is, people say, when you have both the mother and the father in the house, then you're better off. Now, statistically, I know where they're coming from. They're most times they're talking about what's the word that they say? It'll help you to be more successful. They will say, but it doesn't guarantee your mentality, your integrity. It doesn't guarantee your emotional state from a standpoint of how you respond to certain things, because you can have a father in the home and they did not teach the men, or the boys or the girls, how to be. So really, so it's one of those things, like you said
But
something.
so Aki, question on what you just said. So typically the father. So in those situations, what is typically that father's situation when they were younger?
The lack of a father. A
Okay,
lot of
so
times, or a father that lacked what needed to be done for them to be the appropriate father that I'm talking about.
okay, so eventually, and I'm gonna let you fit. So eventually, the root cause is always going to be the lack of a
Hmm.
father,
Hmm.
regardless
Even
of
when the father is present.
Kang, Kang,
Yeah.
Kang.
So not to be fair for those that's listening, we do understand, you know, um, dealing with slavery, dealing with conditioning, dealing with all these different things that happen. But I'm under the school of thought that we could change everything else. We could change this. A lot of times it's just that we're not being made aware of these things. And then if we are made aware of these things, a lot of times we're not taught on receiving things that we are made aware of that could be a benefit to us and our family, or be a benefit for us to be a proper father. So you said something earlier, more that you said that something along the lines of you typically could tell when someone had their father present. You know, um, I believe even in every topic, there's a remnant of a remnant, right? To truly want to go down that path of being a great father in all points of life. And if you do not have the skill set on certain parts, then that great father will go and find another father that he sees doing those steps. These are little things I wanted to bring in this conversation too, because um, this self esteem is subjective, depending on the person and what they view self esteem to be. So I think a brother who was commenting, where is he at? Reelan, I might be saying your name wrong, forgive me. He was saying how this topic is so broad. We would need a lot of different platforms to speak on these things, but I just want to throw those little nuggets out there. Does anyone have anything for this subtopic before we go to the next one? Because y'all already, really did a good job on the self-esteem and the identity part. Go ahead. I'm about to tell you something. It's all you.
Okay, so um, like I said, I know some topics like this, especially for women who are raising children by themselves and not the ones that are being malicious towards the fathers of the children. This can be a hard pill to swallow because you feel like I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing everything. How can this be so? I guess my biggest encouragement would be to you that it's not anything that you're doing if it wasn't your fault. Which I mean, either whatever men and women goes through in their relationship, of course, it's going to affect the children. But no matter what, men should still be there for the children. Women should still be able to open that door, no matter what you two have gone through. You should still keep that door open for your children to be able to access their father, or you're going to regret it in the future, and then they are going to, in my opinion, have a disdain towards you because you've withheld, like everyone was saying, your first hero, your first loves are supposed to be your parents. We look at it in Tehillim, Lemuel, Proverbs, the Proverbs woman, and all those things, those examples are being spoken to by a woman to her son because she's letting him know what traps lay ahead. And it's the same thing with what a father will tell his daughter. Um, so as far as the self-esteem and the statistics of if a mother is even still doing the best she can and just still lacking, it just shows you the weight of the responsibility that the Most High, not man, but that the Most High put on man as the head, as the leader. We look at the title Adon or Adoni and Master. These are the titles that the Most High had given the man as a husband. To whom much is given, much is required. So don't ever look at this as I feel like, these stats are just meant to put women down. But no, it's just the truth that this is the responsibility of a man. Our responsibility is not the same as a man's responsibility when it comes down to rearing a home. And we see that with the title of what a husband is. Some people say modern term will be Lord, or if he's your husband, my Lord. Those aren't just cute titles. Those are titles that show you exactly what a man is supposed to do for his household, and that's govern it and that is rule it. So when that ruler is gone and not absent, then you see where the burden of what it means to rule a home falls on, and that falls on the woman who is supposed to be a co-heir. She's not the set founder of that. So never look at it as this, but I'm doing the best I can. Look at it as there is just a missing piece of the puzzle, and that is that father. Um, that's it.
Kane, hello,
Powerful,
yeah.
powerful, HG, powerful. Um, I don't have nothing to say after that. Boy, that was what you smiling for, man? I don't got nothing to say to that. I don't got no comment at all.
Oh
I did
no,
want
Powerful.
to add one little part.
So, did you all have anything for the subtopic? Or are we moving along? Oh, I'm
Can you
sorry,
hear me?
Marquita. Talking about volume down. Forgive me. I'm wondering why I can't hear you, but your mouth moving. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think the biggest one for emotionally for the men would be delayed emotional maturity whenever there isn't a man present. And this is why I love working with children, because you see that. You see that aggression, you see that anger. I remember we had one child at our school who didn't have a father present. He had a father, he just wasn't present. And his mother had him. And the anger in that little boy, just how he couldn't process his emotions. But then I saw how Mori Daoud took him under his wing, and it built his confidence, it built his love, it built a lot of things, and he restored that relationship with his father when his father started coming to the school. And we saw that child go from an angry little child kicking our teachers, biting them, to this amazing young man who is growing and speaking, and now he's in leadership roles and things like that, all because of love from another man, and then also from his father once his father stepped in. So it was almost like emotionally he wasn't growing, you know what I mean? But then as soon as he got the love, all of a sudden he was so mature, he can speak, he can, you know what I mean? So we made, as women sometimes we take that away from the man, but we don't realize how much that our children need it. It doesn't matter what it is, it could just be that man there playing with them, running around in the yard. Like that little moment also is so amazing for young adults, young men, young women. And we take that and we take it lightly, like, oh, well, then you don't need to be there in their life. And it's like, yes, they do. Regardless of how you feel, that man needs to be there. If y'all can't co-parent, cool. But you need to figure out a way that that man is in that child's life, especially the first 7 years of a child's life. That's their foundation you're taking from them. And it's kind of like that, you look at Abba and how he's like, you guys are no longer, adopted, because all jokes aside, that's how they're walking around feeling like they're rejected, they're abandoned, they have nothing. And then that spirit comes in, and now it's just constant breach in your family just because of one decision you made to make sure that the father doesn't talk to the child. Like, it literally creates this breach that cannot be repaired as quickly as you took it away. So
okay. And can I add to that? Well, sort of lovely. All it takes is a foot to some of these young men's hind parts, as Denzel would say. But no, you guys do know that this is an actual mental disorder, right? Like this is a mental disorder when someone doesn't have. It's called fatherlessness disorder. It's a mental disorder that arises from the absence of a father, causes physical and emotional damage. The symptoms associated with this disorder include emotional pain, which we spoke about, feelings of worthlessness, which we spoke about, projected anger, internal suicidal thoughts, and a persistent search for a father. This disorder has been experienced by both individuals, men and women, who have struggled with father absenteeism. So this is not just something that is like you see it and it's like, okay, well, this is just an issue and we got to fix it. No, we are truly mentally. They had to create a disorder for our community. And yeah, I know it's you know single parent households and the white communities and the Hispanic communities. Another stat, right? I watch Gil's Arena, right, and they call him the stat man. I guess you could call me that too in a sense. All right, it says it was 46% It's this one. 46% of black families or children, black children, live with their mother only, and that was just a couple years ago in 2021. Right among Hispanics, that's only 24.5, and mothers in white children 16.7. Now in 1970, we were at 30%. That was still more than that was still almost triple at that time, as opposed to our counterparts when it comes to other communities. So this is really about our community. This is truly an epidemic in our community. So, and we are, for those who are married, or you are grown and you see or you're single and you see the pool of men that you have to choose from, guess what? You can blame their daddy for not being there. You can blame you can blame the generation before them for not raising them in a certain way, because now they're dealing with mental issues. Me and Segula Maisha, we were watching a show. Nasi, don't judge me. But Love Is Blind, right? Was watching a show called Love Is Blind on Netflix, and it was a season.
I used to watch that show. I watched like 2 seasons of it when it first came out.
Okay, all right. So I mean, we got into, I forgot, blame my sister-in-law for it. But anyway, so I was watching a season, right? And there was a black dude up there, and his father was present, but his father was taking him on trips to go cheat. His father was, not really handling business as a husband. So then the show of Love Is Blind, they talk to people, so on and so forth, and they're supposed to get married after they talk to him, whatever. So at the altar, he got all the way to the altar, and he's having these mental battles at the altar. And he wound up saying no. So he went through that whole situation, but the entire time he was telling them, based on my father's issues and my parents getting divorced and so on and so forth, mentally, I don't think that I deserve this worthlessness. So even with that fatherlessness disorder, it happens even when you as a father, so talking to the men, you as a father are there, but you're not really there. You're still absent-minded. And this is still affecting our brothers and our young men day after day after day, and we're seeing the result of it in our communities, among the adults as well as the children coming up after us.
And this is the purpose of the title. No fathers, no future. Future is dealing with longevity. Future is dealing with success, right? Success is subjective to most. Some people view success as, I got a lot of money, or success, I have some land, or success, I have this. But the main thing we're failing at is serving the Most High properly and being successful with our children, and the generations coming after them, and them having successful marriages, and them being mentally balanced, emotionally stable, right? Spiritually grounded. That's the future part I'm talking about. The future is sustaining that longevity and that success and that type of success. So this topic right now, it's many people that may watch this later. And if you all share it, that's watching it right now, please make sure you like it. Make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you share it. This is encouragement. We're having this conversation because you still could shift. I believe the scriptures wholeheartedly. I believe even through this disorder that we have, according to Mora Dawood, that we can correct it. It will, I don't want to talk like everybody else. It will take time, it can take time, or it can just be changed. And I know that's a hard pill to understand when I'm bringing that out, but we change so many things like that. I know this is deeper because this is within, but it's a certain change I'm talking about. I'm not talking about making a complete 180 right then and there. I'm talking about changing your mind thought process as to I'm going to go forward in the opposite direction from this day, and understand that it's going to be a process, but I'm still going to progress. And I'm going to see the things that I need to shift. Go ahead.
Um, I was gonna say that you're supposed to say bars after you say that. You know that it's a
I know.
process, but I'm still gonna progress, my brother.
A true lyricist don't need to toot his own horn. Let another man
Oh,
speak. Like what the scripture say.
all right,
Appreciate
you can
you.
mute now. You can mute
But
now.
to be serious real quick. This is to encourage everyone that's listening. This is to encourage those of us on this panel as well to stay the course, stay on the path, and look at the old ways, right? Learn from the old ways and do better. When we read our literature, it has everything in there that can help our success. Many of us came in on this path, on this topic right here, no fathers, no future, the impact of fatherlessness on society. We are the outcome, right, of this. So in actuality, we're probably going to repeat it, but we don't have to repeat it. It's a lot of things I learned in my late 20s. Everything that I'm doing now, I had to learn myself. Let me explain what I mean. I give credit to my aim and my ob. They did the best that they knew how. I talk to my aim about my mother about this all the time. She's like, did I do it? You did what you knew, and you tried, and you did what you knew. It's my job and your children's job to do better, learn from it, because now we're able to read your story, learn from your story. That's the same thing we do with the scriptures. So this is the last thing I'm gonna say about this. A lot of us are people that read the scripture and we say Torah, 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 but are we living it though?
No.
So we could talk and comment on this topic right now, but the stuff that we do when we're bearing false witness, when we're doing all these different things, is it comes from that lack of true fatherhood that taught you how to, hey, stop being a gossip monger. We don't do that here. Hey, make sure you protecting your mother, protect your sister. You make sure you protect your sister and your mother with your life. Teaching you that as a child, not a child, but as a teenager, because why? That's going to affect you when you get older. You know you need to do that. Don't put your hand on your sister or your mother, right? Why is that important? You'll understand when you get older. Don't put your hands on your wife. It's so many different things. This is the importance of fatherhood, right? So I'm going to pass the mic. We're going to bring the next subtopic up. For those that's watching right now, please make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't, make sure you share and give us your thoughts on this topic. Positive presence. All praise to the Most High. Okay. All right, then the struggle of the father dying or drug addiction or prison. It's imperative to find male figure support systems. That's another thing right there. We need to, a lot of men, a lot of us, we want to do things on our own. We don't want to, talk with other men that we deem righteous, that is going to be balanced when we speak different things to them. But we're afraid to open up. I think Maura Kayelia brought that out earlier with the being vulnerable. A man teaching you how to be vulnerable. That's a form of being vulnerable. Me going to Maura Dawood or going to my ab-in-law or going to another man that I trust to be able to open up. A lot of us don't want to do that because we think that's weak.
Which goes back to the lack of self-esteem, the lack of confidence, and the lack of identity. When you know who you are, you know that me going to Nasik is not weak of me, especially if I read the scriptures where it says that there's safety in the multitude of counsel, which means that the aspect of getting counsel is looked upon as wise. So why would I be weak or not a man for doing what the scriptures and some of the wisest men and the righteous men did themselves? So I think that we do have to break that thought process, and that's for the community as a whole, as well as even in the Ibrahim community, right? And there's something else a quote Anaya said in terms of even in Torah, you'll see men who are looked at very highly to the men who take on the fatherless. And it's like, Now, see, you do, Ibri. Is there a word for stepdad in the scripture?
I haven't found it. If it is, I have to go and see, but I don't think so. Like
You ain't gonna find
stepdad,
it.
right?
Yeah, stepfather. No, no, you're not gonna find it because that's what we once once you had children coming to your house, right? The Torah speaks on widows and orphans a lot. So when you're talking about the fatherless, you're talking about taking them, especially the young men, for the fathers and even the young women, and trying to still help them and groom them into the proper direction. And if we're not doing that as a community, we're kind of leaving the heavier things of Torah to the side, and we're focusing on things that we can, get off the list a little bit quicker. But it's like if we were to hone in on the weightier matters of Torah Tanakh, then we will be able to kind of kill some of the disorders within our community. But we're not trying to do that because, well, that's a different conversation. I won't go there. But I will say that there are things that we have to do and that we can do that the Most High has already told us to do, and we wouldn't have a lot of these issues, and we would actually be looked at as the light and not leading the pack in the wrong direction of separating children from their fathers.
Okay. Told More Kia, you got anything before I bring this video up? All right. I'm going to bring this video up. It was requested that we play it, and then we'll continue with the following subtopics. Here we go.
This is about. It's good. Let's get to that. Why are you crying? But you did it. You know in life there's going to be things harder for you to do than other things. And you know those things that may appear to be hard to do, you're going to have to do as a man, regardless. But I don't mind you crying. I cry a lot too. You know what I'm saying? It's hurting me for that pain. Like, I'm not going through this no more, right? We got this. It's going to be very painful. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Being a black man in this country, you're going to need mental fortitude. You're going to have to be strong here more so than here. And it's good to cry so you can work through that emotion. So when it arises again, you can push it to the side. You understand? Yes, sir. All right, good. Let's see what you got.
All right. Powerful video. That's a positive example of what men should be and do for the community, especially the young men. I do believe we need to have more outlets for young men that are without father, with single mothers. We should have more outlets. Like, remember the Boys and Girls Club type things, like something to where the young man could go to and have these things, kind of how what you all are doing at Saha. We need more of that. So appreciate the video. Any comments on that? On the video? Is that the guy that be on Facebook talking about y'all? Okay, I knew he looked familiar. Wilson. All right.
I like him. He actually goes into the conversations about young men crying and teaching them how to deal with their emotions and things like that. I thought you was going to put more of a video on, but I know when we first came into this walk, he was a great inspiration, especially with us dealing with a lot of the children we were dealing with. at our school. So he's definitely a great reference, especially for the young men. That's also how we ended up knowing what to do with DJ, with the little person that we had, because dealing with their emotions, they have big emotions, and for me that was new because young boys are always, they're fun, they're playful. So seeing so much anger, it's like, where does this come from? And why is this here? And why is it in such a little body? And you never really understand that, the choices that we make does affect little people in such a big way because we're older. So it's like, oh, this is nothing. But for them, it's such a big thing. And, that actually helped me to understand how big those emotions are, especially for young men, because they always say women are emotional. But yeah, men, little boys, men, you guys are emotional. It just looks different. It looks aggressive and it looks dangerous compared to ours. So it needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, it needs to be channeled and taught how to use properly. That's why when people say, "Man, you're being emotional," I teach. I say that everyone has emotions. It's how we execute those emotions, and that's what the men need to understand. And the men that teach against emotion is they need to deal with their emotion right there, saying that we don't have any. That's just not right. But anywho, what'd you say? You said absolutely. Tell them. Let's go ahead and get to the next ones. So let's go to one that I believe causes. I want to say this too. I did a lesson last week. I don't know if you saw it more, Dawood, but I made a reference to you. I find myself now, not all the time. This is the third time I heard myself do it, but I do this thing that you be doing. You'll be teaching. You'll be like, I did that when I did this lesson last week. Oh my goodness! I said, "Boy, Dawood, you watching this?" I just got this from you. All right, let's get to it. Do absent fathers help to shape dating choices? Does absent fathers should be it? Do absent fathers help to shape dating choices?
Ladies,
I'm gonna mute myself.
Akio.
Absolutely. It goes without saying. Do absent fathers help shape dating choices? Cain. And I would even say, and to be balanced, as we are the house of balance, even when a woman has a father in her life, she is still subject to make bad choices. But with that choice, she's more strategic because she either keeps the man from her father or her father will straight up tell her, he's garbage, he's trash, do not go with that guy, and she'll still do it. So just put that out there because I have rarely, I just say any good father is going to be like, no, I don't like him. But with the good reason. But Cain, absent fathers help shape dating choices, and then a lot of times it just helps shape their choices, sexual choices, because a lot of times if there's an absent father, sometimes that woman isn't even looking for a relationship. She's just looking, as we know, this is the intercourse or being intimate sometimes is a void, a substitute for people who lack a void. There's drugs, there's all other type of things, alcohol, but we all know that being intimate with someone is also another portal that people use when there is a void. So yes, it shapes dating choices, and then it shapes choices as far as when to be intimate and who to be intimate with. And that's pretty much all I have to say for that, because it's a rabbit hole of that. But Cain, absolutely, that's it.
Toda Rabba Ishti. Toda. And for that individual that asked about her, yes, this is my Isha. Just want to let you know, all praise to the Most High. I think he said that too. Was that why you were smiling?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you smiling for? I had to go up and read and try to remember when you made the little smirk.
I'm like Negro. Anyway, I'll talk to him after this.
Don't you see the Bed Mazan ministry? Well, she don't got the ministry on hers, but you see, it's come on, man. Context is clues. But
Context
it's
is cool.
no foul. No.
No,
I
he
get it.
good. He good.
He good. Tell him he good.
Lovely. You wanna go?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Let me go back to the question. Can you pull the question back there? Do absent fathers help to shape dating choices? I'm going to go into a bunch of different things. But yes, it does, only because of the fact of having a father kind of fills that protection, provision, and instruction role. And it also creates the model for the pattern of what it looks like to date. So for the sons, if they see a father who's absent or he doesn't have a father that's present there, then they kind of struggle with that commitment issue or maintaining emotional connections, or even some may fear marriage, which is kind of what he was telling you about that show that we was watching. And then for the daughters, they kind of mirror that father's absence. So they're either finding emotionally unavailable men, or men who abandon them, or overly dominant men. That's where you get the narcissistic, or men who compensate for her lack of protection. So no boundaries. So they don't really have a standard, and they don't put a standard on that person. I think another thing would be women having, well, speaking from a women's standpoint, having unrealistic views because you've never seen it. So now your idea of what this relationship looks like is either over romanticized or hyper fixated on something toxic. Because if it's toxic, it means that he loves me. He's doing all this toxic stuff. That means he needs me to stay there. So your perspective is so distorted because there is no real pattern there. I think I had another one. Oh, and then usually that's kind of why we repeat the cycles of the mother having multiple baby daddies and things like that, because you don't really know what you're looking for. You're just kind of looking for it in each man, something different. But really, ultimately, what you're looking for is your father. But because you don't know who your father is, you're kind of just looking for something in each man that you come in contact with. So, yes.
Good stuff.
Okay, hallelujah. All right, so just more stats. This is fatherhood.gov. I didn't even know that they had a .gov for fatherhood, but I guess it is that important. And oh, you did? Oh, did? Okay. Well, just like you kept it to yourself, keep it to yourself. I'll just play. Teen girls who don't have a father in their life are 2 times more likely to initiate sexual activity early and are 7 times more likely to get pregnant compared to girls with fathers present. Also, teen girls who have a higher quality relationship with their fathers are less likely to initiate sexual activity compared to those who have a lower quality relationship. The key word in that is quality. A couple more, and then I'll kind of go from the stats, right? Daughters of single parents without a father involved are 53 times more likely to marry as a teenager, 711% more likely to have children as teenagers, not 71% more, 711% more likely to have children as teenagers, 164% more likely to have a premarital birth, and 92% more likely to get divorced themselves. When you look at those stats, it's like I even if you don't like the dude, you should probably just keep him in the house. Like he could have a separate room or something like that. Like just he need to be somewhere in the house, because the stats that that means that they're watching people. They are watching and observing what happens when we put this man in the house, what happens when we take this man out the house. And they have to have decades of this data in order to come up with these stats. So that means that this is a constant issue, that without a father, you're talking about the women are looking for a daddy. The young ladies are looking for a daddy if their father is not there. They're looking for somebody to uh, provide for them, or tell them that they pretty and so on and so forth. It's like, I'm not gonna say that. What I will say is that when you grew up in high school, now see, I'm sure that you knew other brothers. It had nothing to do with you because you weren't like this at all. But you knew other young men who knew exactly what to say and who to target as far as the young ladies that were in the school, because they knew that they were easy. And most of the time, those quote unquote easy girls didn't have a daddy.
Well, I definitely wasn't in that class.
No,
I
of
don't.
course.
No, I mean, I definitely, I was a V in my high school, and nobody knew I was V. I was so popular, basketball star, and a little bit singer, but nobody knew I was that. But I
Mm.
was, I was the one.
That's
I
what I
hung
said.
out with
That
him. You know what I'm saying?
you
And
say you hung out with him though?
when people found out that, well, people found. I mean, of course, I was on the basketball team, so, but I ain't go
Oh,
partying
okay.
and stuff like that. I'm talking about like in the hallways, in the lunchroom. You get the pencils, and you do the little things with the pencils and stuff. You remember that? You
Yeah.
did that? Yeah,
But
but you would never know until I told you. Like I just told you now, nobody knew when they found out. They're like, "What?" Like that. I was so focused
your
on back,
boys did know.
huh?
I said, but your boys did know. So I'm not gonna use him, right? Because he
Nobody
did.
knew. Oh,
I'm
what you
talking
mean?
about. But your boys did know who to
Okay, I got
target.
you. I got you.
Like when I was in high school, and once again, I was like, now see, I had nothing to do with any of this. But I think it's past the statute of limitations. Anyway, at that particular time in life, we you skip class, you go to the girls' house, the daddy ain't there anyway, and everybody just at the park, everybody's at their house. And in high school, you think that that's cool, but then when you get older and you get grown, you like, we took advantage of a lot of sisters who were hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And now as men get older, it's like we don't really change the formula because it's still the same thing. The women in high school just became grown, but they never dealt with their daddy issues. So they're still vulnerable. They're still targets for wolves. And they still get eaten. And these stats are showing that. And it's like we just, the absence of a father is detrimental to a nation, which is why we always kill the men. And when colonizers or whoever went into a country, a village, or whatever, they always killed the men off. Because if you remove that, now the women and the children are vulnerable. And now we're doing it willingly. We are willingly making our women and children vulnerable.
Let me
King.
unmute myself. Let me unmute myself. I
So
want to
everybody
bring. I want to bring something up real quick. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. All right. Let me get it for a second. Now, for those of us that keep Shabbat, you know what I'm saying? Don't worry about this to after Shabbat. But I want to highly recommend something for y'all real quick. Hold on. So I wrote this book, y'all. It's called Life Lessons Before Life Happens. Life Lessons Before Life Happens. It's over 49 topics of everything we're talking about now. Even the stats that Maury Daoud put up in there, I got it up in there. But these are this type of book. Let your 12-year-olds and up read it. Matter of fact, let your 9-year-olds and up read it. So they won't be one of the statistics that Maury Daoud brought out, and I pray they don't. But a lot of times, us as parents, we're not, on a serious note now, we're not, let me stop this. We are dealing with life. We're working. We're doing all these different things. We're thinking that we're doing good just by taking care of our child, that we feeding them. They have a home to stay in. We put them in all these different activities away from us, and we're missing the discussions that is needed to be had in life. The lessons that you learned has not been passed down to your children. And I hope that those that's listening, if you are this type of parent, think about it. Take time two, three times out the week and just sit down and have uncomfortable topics, conversation about certain topics that you've never talked to them about. Those conversations may change their lives. That was the reason why I wrote this book, because I see it. I've seen it. A lot of things that we have all went through is because we haven't had the discussion with our parents, and if we did, it wasn't brought to us properly, right? More Akayuya and more Daul said that this gentleman is in the life of this child, but we can't understand. Well, we didn't understand, like, why, where all this aggression from? It could have been something as simple as the approach, right? The approach of the father. So it's these little things that we need to learn about, to become better fathers, or to become better fathers that are not even with the mothers anymore, you know. So I'm going to end with that. It was something I wanted to say, but more that made me forget. He, I don't understand it sometimes. So let's go to the next topic. But before we do, those is watching right now, please make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like, and make sure that you share. If it's anything in this topic that we've been, or this discussion that we've been having, that you have comments on, please put it in the chat. We will respond. We will post it. And if you have any topics that you might want us to talk about in the future weeks to come, or the future sessions to come, we'll go ahead and do that too. Just let us know. All right. Next subtopic. Does the lack of fatherly role models or fathers play a part in the lack of wealth building and entrepreneurship? Does this lack of fatherly role models or fathers play a part in the lack of wealth building? Notice I said wealth building, because it doesn't mean that you're going to be wealthy, but you may be in a position to where you have had your family be financially secure or comfortable, right? So does this lack of fatherly love models play a part in the lack of wealth building and entrepreneurship? Everyone's downloading right now. I see it. I see the little downloading marks going across the screens right now. I can answer. Y'all want me to answer? I answer. You go. All right, go ahead. Well, while you're finding, I'll comment on this. So I believe that it does, but in two ways though. This can happen when the father is present, because some fathers are not taught these uh, certain financial understandings when it comes to building wealth, right? Or have the understanding of entrepreneurship, where to find the resources needed to go in a direction that is outside of the norm, right? So a lot of us don't have the entrepreneur mindset due to it not being taught to us by our fathers, and the importance of having that side of the coin on your as your go-to, so you won't be stuck in the normal 9 to 5s, right? The normal 9 to 5s is getting someone else and their family wealthy. So this father may not be teaching, okay, do this for now, but work towards getting out of that for the sake of your future children and things of that nature. So my answer is, I do believe that's the case. I believe that's the case on a large scale when it comes to our community. I do think that today in 2025, people are starting to go in that direction, but still on a small scale. All right, let me mute myself.
Okay, so I had to find something before I answered. Um, does a does this lack of fatherly role models play a part in the lack of wealth building and entrepreneurship? Kane. And I'm going to read something from Mishle, which is Proverbs 19 and 14. And I couldn't find the uh, version that I read from, so I just found the King James. Houses and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Most High. Um, so the Torah or the literature is telling us Cain, the lack of a fatherly role, does play a big part in the wealth and entrepreneurship because um, just in a lot of cultures, the father is the one that carried the wealth. I know over here in America now, women have somewhat equal rights, and now we're in the work field just like the men. Now you have a lot of women now making more than men in certain places. So now the game changes with the evolution of where we've or where we're going to. But yes, but Cain, the inheritance or that wealth and that role model of wealth was always supposed to be the father. The father in every culture, but more specifically in our literature, was the foundation of the family. It started off with, and from there, that father usually carried the wealth down to his sons, which is why a lot of women, not to degrade the role of a daughter, this is why a lot of women wanted sons because the wealth was in the son, because the son usually carried out what the father did, or he was the one that either picked up a business and kept it going for his sons and their family. Um, so Cain, without a lot of fathers, we do find a lot of individuals who don't have a lot of financial literacy when it comes down to just business, because they're working from where they're only working from what they know. They're not working from what was inherited to them. And this is really the biggest difference that growing up, y'all, as a little girl, I had thoughts like, um, I would see, other nation individuals with cars by the time they were teenagers, not in little numbers, in large numbers. And I noticed that it wasn't the same thing for, people that look like me. And then when I got older, ended up seeing that a lot of inheritance that a lot of these families have, they pass it down to that next generation. Like you can be talking to, matter of fact, when me and my Ish went to the dentist one time, the young lady that was doing the job there in the office, she was talking about, working as a dentist and things like that. But her family owns land that she has a part of. She's not even in the same state, but she has a backup. They have these things, they have land, they have the wealth. But for us, everything is pushing and working against us. And sometimes, as a gullible people, we don't give any pushback to that. So we go with the flow. And oftentimes, the here and now is more important than an actual building up of a business. And then there's then that lack of wanting to submit to authority. If you didn't grow up with authority, a male figure is foreign to you, so you don't know how to submit to someone trying to have a righteous rulership over you. So it's a lot of factors in that became the absence of a father and their father and father figures is also certain absence of wealth. So that's it.
Um, all praises. Appreciate that, Ishti. In addition to that, I want to say, she brought up some good things. Um, I think that one of the things to look at too, and what she brought out was the importance of the son they were speaking of, because typically the son carried out the legacy of the family. Why? Because the daughter got married off to another family. So the daughter carried on the name of her Ish, right? It was, and that's a whole nother topic too. I'm not gonna go into. I kind of want to, but I'm not. So she was 100% correct in that. For those that may not understand that, uh, what was said. So in addition to the wealth building, one of the things I wanted to point out that I didn't point out was, um, we're not taught things like life insurance. We're not taught things like life insurance. We're not taught things like mutual funds. We're not taught things like that can actually help. Like, somebody might transition and we may not have the funds to do it. Now, we could save ourselves, teach our children how to save and things of that nature. but also other backings, other outlets that can help facilitate those situations. We're not taught those type of things. If you have your own business, what do you do if your business isn't like a multi-million or billion-dollar business? What are you doing for your retirement fund? What are you doing for things like that? So it's little conversations like that, and so out, going out and getting sources that may have better understanding in those areas than you, and bringing that information to our youth. If that's not something that you're doing now, those are conversations that we need to have too. So I just wanted to add that to it. Anyone else?
King. I'm just gonna add a little bit to what she already said because she said some good stuff. I do believe that it does play a direct impact on the wealth building and entrepreneurship because usually from your father, you're learning discipline, risk taking, financial literacy, long term planning, kind of like what you were saying about having life insurance. Your father's usually teaching you inheritance, industry, stewardship, just things like that that has to do with building generational wealth. I think that Proverbs 13:21 says it good. It says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So ultimately, just like the scripture says, everybody is supposed to be leaving something back. That's 2 generations. That's your children and your children's children. So there's a constant work in, and that inheritance isn't just a financial inheritance, but that means that I have also put this in my son so that he can make sure his children have something. So everybody has it. So the father's job is to make sure his son knows to carry on this inheritance and also make sure that his grandchildren has it. But then the grandchildren's children will have it because the father now is doing the same thing. So it's kind of like a generation ahead. Everybody is doing what they need to do so that the next generation doesn't have to start over. So I think that ultimately that's our biggest thing is we're starting over every generation, literally, because our fathers isn't leaving that inheritance for us. And kind of like in the show, his failure, his hindrance was his fear of failing or his fear of not being able to provide. So all of those things starts to play in the man's head too. So now not only are we not leaving an inheritance, now we have a failure. So now we have a hindrance to not even make a step to actually do it. And then the world teaches us that you just got to work and work and work, and you're on this hamster wheel of just working and working, and your family is not benefiting from it. And in our society, as Black people, we believe that the inheritance that we get is from when our parents die. That doesn't make any sense. That's not your inheritance. That is for their burial, literally. But everything else, you should have already had the money to do everything else. And you see it in these communities where they're killing their parents just for the inheritance money instead of actually trying to build wealth and to have something to pass down to generations. And it's kind of like our mindset is warped because the world is telling us work for them and then use this, life insurance in order for you to live. But that does nothing for us because, of course, they make sure that funerals is $1 million. So everything that you do get back is literally going back to them. But we don't see that because we are convinced that this is what we're supposed to do.
I want to add something to the last part of what she said. This is why culture is important. And what did we do as a culture? We buried our own. But we need land for that too. So it's so many different areas to go to where you can still, if you bury yourself, your own, and you have your own land, and then you do have that life insurance and things. It's avenues. There's so many different avenues that can help assist. But the first step is to have that cultural mindset and start practicing the culture. And you won't have to go outside to get what they're telling us we need to do. Excellent points, Maura.
Okay. My lovely. All right. So, just a couple more stats and then I'll kind of tie it all together. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes, 32 times the average. So, and then the next one is 85% of all youth in prison come from fatherless homes. So and then I'm tied all together as I do this. 80% of millionaires, this is from a 2022 study, 80% of millionaires are first generation. They did not inherit their wealth. So 80%, right? So how do all three of those connect? Well, without your father, you don't learn discipline. You don't learn the long-term planning. Everything that both of the Moreau spoke about, right? And so without your father, you're either going to jail or you're running away, and running away means you have no foundation and you're kind of all over the place. So with the father in the house, you are then more likely to be able to understand what it takes to have a plan and be able to grow and have a foundation, and then you can build off of that. Because the righteous man leaving an inheritance for his children's children, that's not happening in any community, seems like right now. Most of them are first generation affluent, which means that at the very foundation, you must have gotten from your father, you must have received from your father the intangibles needed in order to go into the workplace, in order to go get it. It's not going to just be handed to us. And that's why fathers are so important, because without them, okay, Xavier was Shalom, cousin, oh, that's my cousin. And it was something else about, choose the right career, right? And this is the study for the millionaires, right? 80% first year said engineers, accountants, management, attorneys, and teachers. So now see, we are still in the right place to get this million. Anyway, it's not the point. What is the point is, those careers are typically long haul careers. And you're going to need somebody that's with you in order to support you and encourage you and so on and so forth. That typically comes from your father. Yes, it does come from your mother as well, but that typically comes from your father to keep your eyes on the goal, especially for the young men. So if you don't have that, you're typically everywhere. So while everybody else is out partying, like Nasik said, he didn't go to the parties and all of that. He was focused on being a basketball player, still not better than me, but being a basketball player in his own right, and doing music.
You're right. I'm not better than you. I'm greater.
That those two would be synonymous. We're not going to talk about that. The important part is, because he was focused, and young men needing to be focused, that's usually you getting smacked on the back of the head by your father telling you, hey, we're not going that way, we're going this way. So when you're talking about building wealth and you're talking about taking your family to another level, that's going to come from you seeing the hard work that your father put in, and now you taking that and making it even something greater, as Nasib just said, which he lied on national YouTube.
I lied. Anybody that see me and him play?
But lastly, for those who have not read, so for the high schoolers, we're reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So if you have not read that book as an adult, or even buy it for your children, that is a very important book, right? So pretty much the synopsis, his dad was educated, so on and so forth, and he didn't know. So he had another father figure. So it's not just your biological father, it's men in your life who can help you grow and develop. Men in your life who can help you grow and develop. He had a rich dad, quote unquote, who was teaching him things that led him to grow. Right? So buy that book too, The Lessons Before Life Happens. I do have that book somewhere, but since we're not supposed to be selling,
tell that he don't have the book, because he just literally, the title is on the screen and he butchered the name of the book.
I didn't. I was trying. Get it off the screen now. See, that's not what we're talking about right now.
We're talking about life. It's important.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, because I'm about to wrap it up. He's just difficult. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Life Lessons Before Life Happens. Books like that are written by men and trying to help you be a better man or woman, because both of y'all need fathers, are necessary in order for us to take the next step in the next generation. But we can't do that without this generation doing what it's supposed to do. All right. I yield.
Every righteous man or woman who was in position of where More Daoud is talking about when he said the 80% were first-time millionaires. They stood on the shoulders of those before them, right? They became better. They will do greater than them or than me, right? So that's the goal. For those that's listening, maybe you're in a position to where you you're learning a lot of these things now. You're shifting and changing your life now, and maybe you have a child or children or may want to have some in the future. Man, get this stuff in place so that way when they do come, you set them on the right path, right? You're shortening their learning curve, as an elder will say of mine. So I wanted to put that out there. Powerful points, you all. Amazing points. Is there anything else? You could just say that, right? You could literally just say what you type in the room. Here, I'll bring it up for you so you can read it. Go ahead. You're on the platform. You could have answered this question on the platform. I tell you. I'm kidding you all. We joke.
We have been doing this for a couple weeks, Zay. We are on YouTube at Bayit Ma'azan.
Network.
Yeah, network. I will tag you for the next one as I put in the chat. He just wants me to read it because he's being difficult. Hum sheet.
At least you're listening because you ain't saying time sheet. All right, you
Yeah.
all. I have nothing else. We actually kind of went through it. Is there any comments out there, those that's listening, any thoughts on these on the title and subtopics? And is there any discussions that you might want us to have on this platform? The purpose of this platform is for us to discuss matters that's going on in the so-called Black community to help us thrive and to increase with one another and to fulfill the things that the Most High says that we will and we can fulfill even in our land that we may call captivity, right? This land here, we're able to still do these things. We're not fully held back like we was, hundreds of years ago. We're not in that same vein. We're a little further along. We're able to do certain things that can still increase and help our families, mentally, spiritually, and physically first, and then financially. The reason I always put those three first is because there are some horrible people out there that's rich, that's wealthy. I mean, horrible to their families, things like that. Why? Because they don't have the mental maturity, emotional maturity, right? Or the spiritual maturity. They're not focused on that. So I know you're about to say something. Feel like you're about to laugh. What you about to say?
Oh, nothing.
Okay.
I was just waiting for the last comments.
So yeah, all closing remarks, you all. We actually done pretty early. Any closing remarks? And I'm gonna share something towards the end. Let's bring this up. We have Zakane, Arrow, Brown. How can we, Father? Shalom, shalom to you. By the way, me and my Isha sang at his when they renewed, and his Isha renewed their vows. Did we both sing? I sang.
Can you read the comment, man?
Let me look. All right. Let me mute you. Can we do this? Is it the same? I think I can mute you. There you go, right there. How can we fathers have the same impact on our younger children as well as the grown? It's like they grew up in two different worlds. Go ahead and tackle that question more, though. Go ahead and tackle that question. You want to speak.
How can we fathers have the same impact on our younger children as well as the grown? That's heavy because before 2000 it's a completely different world than we have right now. But the good thing about our cultural literature, right, and more importantly, the national constitution, right, Torah, is the principles and morals never change and they never get outdated. Mm-hmm. So even though there are different avenues that you may have to study up on, whether it's social media or digital currency or anything that the youth are into, so you can kind of help them along in those arenas. The morals, principles, and the foundation that we should be giving to our children, it never changed, especially to the young men as well as the young women, right? Because they go out and they represent the house just like the young men do. So I would say, how do you impact them? You get on their level. So your younger children, whatever they into, figure it out, look into it, and take the principles and then put them inside of whatever they're doing. Right? If they're in the sports, the principles can be taught in sports. Hard work, uh, getting back early. Right? Like I do basketball. I love playing basketball. So the aspect of effort, hush, and the aspect of defense wins championships, right? And the concepts of it's not always going to look pretty. We don't go after the shiny thing. We go after the functional thing. Gotta tell Maisha that all the time. That's not important. So to Zokane, Zaquane, I hope that helps in terms of the principles are the same. Just research the arenas so you can apply those. Now you.
I liked everything that he said except one thing. His basketball example sucked. So I'm gonna tell you the example I use for basketball, right? The most important thing in everything when it comes to the younger versus the grown that you brought out, Zakane, is integrity. Integrity and character and consistency. Why in the world is the greatest players practicing every day? The greatest players in the world that's in the NBA is practicing every day so it can become second nature. So their reaction when somebody stick their hand out really quick to grab, their reaction is just within them. You saw the move though? You saw the move? It's just within them. It's consistency. So that means that we have to continue to practice in our character daily, even if we think we have it down. We need to continue to practice and have an integrity daily, even if we think we have it down. We need to continue to stay up in the literature daily, even if we think we have it down. That's the example of the basketball. And we need to stay constant in communication with the Most High, even
I
if
think
we
that's
think we
the
don't.
exact same thing.
So anyway,
Said this.
look, mine was better than yours. Anyway, told out for that. More Dahu, told out for that. Ishti, more Kayuya. Did you all have anything to the question?
You
That's
guys
right.
did awesome.
Toda. Can you mention your books? Yeah, I got you. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad he asked. I'm going to mention them. Hold on one second. You can do your face like that all you want. The elder has spoken, you all. So I'm about to mention the books.
Elder Brown, we were almost done. Like you give.
I'm going to mention the books, man. Hold on. Here we go. So let me make sure I start over. Okay, we're going. Okay, not that. That's not a book. I used that for the actual page. For the thing today. All right. It is, isn't it? This was the first book I wrote called The Road to Being Blameless. The principles are still needed. My understanding of our literature and our culture is a little different now due to the learning of the languages, due to just my growth in general. But the principles, the road to being blameless is there. It's really good. If that's what your goal is, you want to be blameless in your life, in your daily walk, this is a good one to start. This is called Etem El Chadim, which is you are special. This is for children and even adults that don't know Hebrew. It's teaching people how to speak Hebrew. It has a visual for the youth. So the pages is really it's good for them. And I have some audios to go with it. The elder has asked me. This book is called Manual to Self-Preservation and Divine Conscience. This is focusing on preserving self, understanding in order for you to help someone else or help your family. We talked about family today. You need to know how to preserve yourself in a proper state so that you won't get that imbalance that More Daoud was talking about earlier. All right. Life Lessons Before Life Happens. I think this is one of my best books because all the topics that are in this book is what I guarantee you majority of those that are watching has went through or is currently going through, even in old age. Um, this book is called The Most Efficient and Proficient Way to Learn a Language. I just released this at the end of last year. This is just teaching you that you can learn any language you want to. I have some of the methodology that I use to get to the level that I'm at in speaking Hebrew, and I give you a starter kit to get started in this language. And then I bring some stats. More Daoud is big on stats. Some stats to show older individuals like ourselves or younger than me but still grown, to let them know that you actually can learn a language just as fast, if not faster, than a child. They teach us that children learn languages faster. That is not technically true. It is true, but it's not technically true. And the main reason that it's true is because they have no responsibilities or no stress, no marriage, no jobs, nothing like that that takes away from their focus. And we're talking about learning the second language. Even with a first language, I wrote in the book that it's life and death with them. They have to learn how to speak. So they did a study. They showed a younger child with an older, I think it was a man, and they had them in the room or in some facility for 30 days with no stress free. And it showed that the adult actually learned the language quicker. And that's because our brains are more developed than theirs. But they don't teach this. This book is coming out soon. It's called The Way of a Righteous Community and Rules for Protection. We've been talking about fatherhood a lot today, and it's really it's speaking on just the community dynamic, what a lot of us are going through in the so-called Black community, but more specifically in the Hebrew community. It shows certain things in there too, but you can still gather this information and add it to your daily life, even if you're not an Israelite. And this last book that'll be out this year too is called Men versus Women War. We are warring. We are combative with one another. And we shouldn't be combative with one another because combat is for your enemy. So those are the books that I have so far. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. And lastly, you all, it's 9:53. Before we close out, I wanted to bring this up really quickly. We want to thank those that have been giving donations to our ministry, me and my Isha, to the ministry, and um, we created a community that we wanted to show you all. All right, and in this community, it's basically like what does everyone go to now? Patreon. A lot of people use Patreon. Nazio is similar. I believe it's a little better. But in this community, the benefits, what you're going to get is to be enlightened and empowered and spiritually, mentally, and physically through our music, right? Discussions that we'll have in this community that doesn't really go outside of it, and lessons. Also, exclusive content for the community. So, for example, with me and my Isha, we want to make it to where those that are in the community, they are getting songs from us that the outside world will not get. You also will have, if we are putting an album or music out for the world, you'll get it before them, and you actually get to pick what songs go on the album and things of that nature. We're going to have prayer calls throughout the week, speaking on a lot of health and fitness, um, um, things dealing with nutrition and things of that nature. We also going to be offering mentorship and things of that nature within it, and so much more, so much more. Discounts on certain things like the books that Zakane or Elder was asking about. It'll be half the price, things like that. So if you're interested in checking out the community, all you got to do is type in this link right here. I'll keep it up for a minute, write it down. or find us on Nazio, Beth Mazar Ministries. And for like the first 14 days, you could be on there and just see it, fill it out, see if you're interested in being a part of the community, and then go from there. So I just wanted to share that. Anything, Ishti, you want to say? All right, go ahead. Let me.
Um, I just had some, I guess, ending remarks that I definitely pray that this broadcast was helpful to someone. And I pray that it can just further us as a so called Black community, Hebrew community, to where we're trying to go. I truly believe that the Most High has put this desire in us, whether you're tuning in or on the platform, to try to bring some resolution to the state that's potentially to the state our nation is potentially plummeting to. You look on Facebook, and I know there's real life and then there's Facebook, but it's really heartbreaking to see some of the comments on Facebook that grown men and grown women are having with bait discussions that are put on Facebook. Emotional intelligence is something that's needed because anybody with discipline would just not even engage. But the situations that we're talking about, fatherless and imbalanced homes, well, you can tell through some of these comments who have imbalanced homes. And I just think it's very important that as women, we play our role. As men, you all play your role so that we can get, even if it's just a remnant of us, that we get to where we're trying to get to. And if we don't see it, our children's children see it. Um, because we're doing this for the next generation so that we can preserve our names and our dignity and our pride and all the excellence wrapped up in what it means to be a so-called Hebrew, I mean not so-called Hebrew, slick out Hebrew and so-called Black individual. That pride has to be there. It went from I'm Black and I'm proud to now Black women aren't this, Black men aren't that, and that's a shame before the Creator's face, honestly. And with that, I pray that this was something enlightening and helpful, and you can pass it on to somebody else. Shalom.
Toda, Toda. Anything else? Anyone?
Somebody said, "What is?"
The YouTube is Beith Mazan Network. I'll type it in here. Oh yeah, you're on Facebook. Okay. I'm about to say, you're on here right now? Well, I guess not.
No, just
It's Beith
type it out.
Mazan Network. Um, you can
And for
find us
others,
on
those
here
who
and subscribe, and make sure you support Maury Dawood's YouTube as well. More if you have anything that you want them to find you on. But love and balance talk sessions. We're here every other Yom Shishi or Friday. Every other Friday we're coming here. We was doing it every Friday, but we got some busy individuals. So we're gonna go ahead and do every other Friday for you all.
have no idea what he's
All
talking
right,
about. But
we want to close out, and
okay,
may the Most High bless
can
and
you hear
guard you
me?
all. Yadrechem, Yahweh, Yishmorechem.
Y'all can't hear me. I know he hear me. He should
He
be.
has something to say. Oh, he's speaking. My bad, man. Go ahead, Mordau. Look, I had it. Look, you know what's messing us up? I turned myself down so y'all can hear my Isha because we're in the same room, of course. And then I forgot to turn it up, so forget it. What you say?
Nah, just want to echo what Nasika said in terms of I truly, thank everybody for coming out and tuning in, and I do pray that it has enhanced understanding of some of the issues, especially this main issue, that we need more fathers and less baby daddies. So just let's change it one day at a time.
One
Um,
day at a time.
one day at a time. Say good night. You good? You got anything?
She good. She like it's time, y'all. It's 10 o'clock. No,
All
I'm
right.
kidding. We're about to close out, you all. For those of y'all that don't know, our single, My People Rising, the song that you're about to hear right now, is on all streaming platforms. So please go ahead and find My People Rising. by Beit Mazan Music, Musiq. Hopefully you all enjoy it. Leave a comment while you're listening. May the Most High bless and guard you all. Shalom.
Steps that we must take if we want to see.
I see my people rising, no more stopping us. Couple big niggas cross America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us.
The sake of us, the
I
sake
see
of
my
us.
people rising, no more stopping us. Couple billion niggas cross America, us. The peace rose for the sake of us. No more feeling, telling me and beneath. What a beautiful moment, and a sight I can't wait to see. Even if I miss it, at least I was a part of the mission, changing lives of men, women, and children. All glory goes to He that causes us all to be. And if they're thinking we can, show them that just as long as we stand a monument, we the people can't be broken as long as we stay focused. I see my people rising, no one stopping us. Couple big niggas cross America.